Welcome everyone to the interview of Barry Peatling. And a year ago actually it was, June the 10th, Barry went up to Horsham to the Mail Times and did a Mail Times special and picked the team of the 60s. Now we're just going to interview briefly Barry about this team. Firstly, we're going to have a look at the back line. Now Barry, welcome to the interview.
Thanks, Colin.
Now, I just wanted to ask you a few questions about this team of the 60s you picked for the Mail Times special, and just going to start off with the back line. Now, we're going to ask you a few questions about these people. Gary Lersch from Minyip, how did he make the team? For what reason did he make the team?
Gary Lersch, Colin, was a very strong, straight-ahead footballer, very underrated back in them days. Pretty tough, pretty classy, take a good mark, and pretty fearless. Very good player to have in your back line.
Alright, okay, very good. So that's why you picked him in the back line. What about Max Woodward from Warwick?
Max Woodward would probably be the best fullback in the WIMMERA League back in them days. He was a very tall, slight sort of a fella, but rarely beaten. Ian Morgan, one of his opponents was Rapania, but he said he was probably the best fullback he's played on, so that's enough said about him.
Well, was Jim Pearce as fierce as they talk about?
Jim was very rugged, straight ahead. He was very quick. Wasn't 100% full of ability, but his sort of look in his eyes used to frighten most of his opponents, and he was a very good footballer, straight ahead. Okay,
well, Dara Helen from Dimboola, what are your thoughts on him?
Dara was a very good friend of mine too. He was very good mark overhead. He was a very quick sort of footballer, and yes, a very talented footballer, very reliable in the back line.
Okay, well, Wes Warwick from Nil, did he live up to his superstar status?
Wes Warwick, Colin was a superstar. He could. It was probably in his last 2 or 3 years when I was up there in the 60s, but he could play anywhere. He played in centre. He actually towed up Mick Saban one day at Rapania, and very underrated. No, not very underrated, but he was a very, very good footballer.
Well, last but not least, Denny Lindsay, what was he like?
Denny Lindsay was a Tui medalist. He was a very good footballer, a very good straight-ahead footballer, no fear, very strong and very reliable footballer, and rarely beaten.
Thank you very much for going through the back line. People in the team. We're focusing on the centre line and the forward line. Now here we are, Barry. How are you going?
Oh, not too bad, Tom.
Let's have a little talk about the centre line of the team of the 60s. Ron Kemp from Horsham. Best wingman in the competition?
Without any shadow of doubt, Colin. He was a very classy footballer, very quick, very lovely kick on the run here, and he was easily the best wingman in the competition when I was up there. Okay,
and that's the reason why you got him in the team. Now, Nick Saban from Rapania, centre man.
Mick Saban, Gray Saban, his real name, come from South Melbourne. He was a very, very classy footballer. He's probably the one, the best disposal of a ball on either side of his body in the competition. And took good mark for his size, and a very, very classy footballer, Phil.
Well, another fellow Rapania person, Maurice Marks.
Maurice Marks, Aborigine, a very good footballer and a very good friend of mine. A very classy footballer, a lot of balance in his body. He never seemed to be off balance when he's playing football, and he was a very good footballer to watch.
All right, well let's move on to the forward line, Barry. Roger Webb from Matoa.
Roger Webb was a very good footballer. He took a very good mark for his size. He was very quick and a lovely kick on the run.
Okay. Now from Warwick, Mr. Klein. What was his first name again?
Graham Klein. Colin was easily the best centre forward in the competition back in them days. Very tall, not tall, but solid sort of footballer. Used to kick a lot of goals and very rarely beaten.
All right, from Nil, Richardson.
Wes Richardson, he was a very good footballer too. I mean, all good footballers inside, but he could play in a lot of positions. Wes Richardson, mainly in the centre of the ground, but he could play centre forward, half forward, flank, anywhere, and very talented footballer. Okay, well, what about Tui? Charlie Tui, the second rover. He was easy, the best rover, not easy, but probably the best rover I played against up there, and very tough little fella too. Could kick a lot of goals too in his day, and Yeah, very good opponent.
Alright, well now we get to the famous Ian Morgan.
Ian Morgan, a superstar, mate. Easily the best full forward and one of the best footballers I've seen up in the WIMMERA League back in them days. Could have played VFL without any problems at all, but he was a little bit, well, there's a lot of farm up there and a lot of good land up in Rapanic, like to work his farm a lot, but kick a ball a mile either foot and take the mark of the day every week, so that's how good he was. And people used to travel miles and miles to see this fellow, Colin.
Okay, well what about Mr. Dunlop?
Robert Dunlop played for Essendon back in the 60s, but he came back to Rapanic. He was very rarely beaten. He could kick a ball a mile too. A long way with his. He wasn't a good ruckman to row to. He couldn't palm the ball very much, but he was a very good ruckman and took the big mark too.
All right. Well, thank you, Barry, for telling us about the forward and the centre line. Okay, finally we're going to talk about Barry Peatling's team of the 60s as written up in the WIMMERA Mail Times special. Finally we're looking at the Ruck Rovers and the reserve and emergency players. Now Barry, just tell us a little bit about Colin Wilson from Horsham.
Colin Wilson was probably the best ruckman in the competition without any shadow of doubt. He could palm a ball to his rovers, he was a very good leader and he would be a very good captain to have on your side. Okay,
well what about Hayward?
Mervyn Hayward, good straight head player, pretty tough and had a lot of class and would pick himself first for a Ruck Rover Nudge competition back in them days.
Alright, well I know it's hard to talk about yourself, Barry, but you just made the team, Barry Peatling from Rapanic. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, when I wrote the story there last year, probably the best thing that I said in my little comment there was best to ask Murray Lawson about what I was like, and he said that I was pretty cheeky, pretty clever, dynamic and a match winner. I think that sort of answered itself, so I didn't have to say much about myself at all. Plus the fact that I still hold the record for the most goals by a rover in the WIMMERA League up to this day and age was 60 goals, so that's a fair sort of effort too.
And some say you could play the game.
Well, I could play the game, Cole, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Can't be so too modest and swell.
Yes. 19th man, John Ryan from Rapanic.
Johnny Ryan, a good friend of mine. We went up there to Rapanic together, and very good centre half back, mate. He was straight ahead, very quick for 6'2" fellow, and very good man hand when the going got tough. He was always there.
All right. Well, finally the 20th man, Graham Gross.
Graham Gross, another rover, but another rover in the competition. He was a very good goal-kicking rover too, and pretty classy and pretty to watch sometimes.
He'd bob up and kick a goal?
Could kick a goal, have to watch him the forward line, yeah.
Okay. Now, just going through your emergency players, Kevin Delia.
Kevin Della played for South Melbourne. He was a bit unlucky not to be in this side. Colin, he was a very good half-back flanker. Red-headed, a bit fiery at times, but yeah, good football. Okay,
so you've given us some good reasons why a few of these people didn't make the team. Shipsides.
Bob Shipsides, yeah, was a good. He was a centre half-back flanker. Pretty good footballer. He was a bit unlucky not to be in the side, but we all can't get them all in the side, Colin. But he was a good footballer too.
Okay, Larry Harris from Stawell.
Larry Harris was a very tough ruck rover. And pretty so actually got his number when we won the flag in 1961. I swapped him for my jumper. He was a good footballer and well, pretty tough too, but he was a bit unlucky not to be in the side too.
Alright, well, Peter Sheridan from Japarat.
Peter Sheridan played for Japarat, a good rover too. He was a very classy rover, and he was a very unlucky. I'll tell you what, he was a toss-up between him and Charlie Tour to get in the second rover position, but he was a very good footballer and a very good fella too, and I think he finished up playing with Rapanic back in the late 60s, but he was very unlucky not to get in the side, Colin.
Right, thank you very much, Barry, and that is the team of the 60s.
Thank you, Colin.